Before this video begins, I would like to take a quick moment to thank Bain Books for helping set up the interview that is in this video, and I would also like to apologize for the audio quality. When I was working in editing this video, I ran into some problems and I was not able to get the best audio quality. So you can still hear the interview, but it's just, you might have to turn up your volume a lot. I apologize for that. This was in no way the fault of the author or the publisher that helped set this up. This was my problem in editing, but I still hope that you enjoy the video. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn. And today, I am delighted to have the author, Howard Andrew Jones, here with me. Thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure.
So, you wrote the book, Lord of a Shattered Land, which came out in August, right at the beginning of August. Can you talk about what the release has been like and what you've learned from marketing this book?
Oh my goodness. Well, the reception's been pretty nice to see. It seems like the critics and the readers are both enjoying it, which is good. You know, it's always nice to have the readers enjoying it. It's better if critics and readers enjoy it, right? I guess it's worse if just the critics enjoy it and the readers stay away.
It's worse if both.
It's worse. Yeah, that's the absolute worst outcome, right? So far, everyone seems to be enjoying it, which is great. What have I learned from marketing? Well, I've been at this now for, I guess, over a dozen years, and laying the groundwork for years ahead of time has really helped with this, but also having a publisher who really believes in the work has helped. And Bain is really behind me on this. I am just I'm overcome with joy for the backing I've gotten from Bain.
Yes. You can see the confidence they've had, not just in the fact that it's hardcover, not just the fact that book 2's coming out so quickly, but also in the fact that they're getting you interviews with people, they're getting your name out there. You've really been able to market the book a lot, which some authors' books you just don't even know they come out with some publishers. So it's nice that Bain puts so much emphasis on it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
My next question is talking about the book itself. One of the most impressive things I've seen you do is you have the ability to pitch it like you're reading the pitch, but it's actually just off the top of your head. I'll put pressure on you now for this one, but you did it last time, so would you be able to give us the pitch for this book?
Sure, you want me to
right
at the audience, all the listeners? All right. So keeping in mind that this has an ancient Mediterranean vibe, sort of Spartacus, gladiators, right? So when the Dervan Empire came for the people of Volanus, they fought block by block, house by house, until most of them fell with sword in hand. Less than 1,000 survived to be led away in chains. The Dervans looted the treasuries, they set fire to the temples, and they sowed the ground with salt. They thought their destruction was complete, but they overlooked one important detail. Hanover, the greatest Volani general, had escaped alive, and now, alone against the might of a vast empire, he has only an aging sword arm, a lifetime of wisdom, and the greatest military mind in the world bent upon a single goal. No matter where his people have been taken, from the furthest outpost of the empire to its rotten heart, he will find his people, every last one of them, and he will set them free.
Oh, I got chills again listening to that. Yeah, that is a great skill to be able to do that. That is a way. Some people, their pitch is, what if I had this, but also this? Like a lot of authors might have, with this book, just given the premise, what if Hannibal survived the sacking of Carthage? And that's all they would give as the pitch, but you make it come alive, which is excellent for the marketing. I love that.
Well, thank you.
So with this book, you're dealing with Hanover, who survives, and he is basically going on a journey. And one of the things I loved about the book was in the map, you not only see the map of the world at the time, but you see the dotted line that shows his journey. You can easily track where he is in the world, where he's headed next, and you kind of know he's probably going to make it, but you don't know, is he going to free the people? Is he going to do this? Was that a decision you made to include the dotted line? And how was the decision-making on how he would make his journey there?
Oh, sure. So the dotted line, my son drew that map.
Yeah, that's a great...
Right? I mean, he's a talented young man. And I think it was his idea to do the dotted line because he's seen enough of the maps, and I loved it. And you know, there's a story in there called The Autumn Horse. And so I said, well, that takes place about here on the map. And he drew a tiny little horse head. You know, he added all these little neat ideas to help. And then at some point, I showed it to my friend Chris Hawking. He said, I love the map. It's great. How about just an occasional arrowhead pointing along the dots? So it's like, well, I think the direction's obvious. Like, no, that would be cool. So it's like, I'm glad he said that. I like the arrows. And now as far as what was the other part of the question?
I was asking about how you used the map to design the journey that he would go on.
Oh, right. So I didn't have any but my own terrible map. My son did not inherit any of his artistic skills from me. So I had this terrible thing, and I kind of knew where he was going, and the mountains were here, but I mean, it was dreadful, right? I mean, a second grader probably could have done better. Yeah.
One thing I liked is you mentioned that it has that Mediterranean feel because that's what the history it's kind of based on. And the map itself seems almost like an inverse of the real Mediterranean map. And so it has a feeling of being similar quality while at the same time feeling different because it's not just the actual Mediterranean map, which some authors might feel, we'll just use that map and no one will notice. But I like that you flipped it and therefore made it your own while being similar.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a silly conceit, but I thought that since he's kind of going into almost he's dealing with death in a lot of ways, right? And in the ancient Mediterranean, a lot of times when you went west, certainly the Egyptians felt this way. West was the land of the dead.
Yeah.
So I have him go deeper and deeper into the west,
yeah.
right, before he can come back out to living in the east. So that was one reason I flipped it. Also, I didn't want it to be. It's certainly inspired by the ancient Mediterranean, but I didn't want it to be exactly like it.
Right.
Plus, my son got a hold of the map. I originally had this sort of not Italy, more like wolf jaws rather than a boot, and he fixed that up. He made it so much cooler than anything I came up with.
You should have figured out, like, all right, if Italy's the boot, my country's going to be the hat.
The hand, the glove, right?
Right.
The hand.
Something that's
a six-fingered.
A six-fingered, yeah. There we go. That would have stayed with the fantasy theme. The book is interestingly written because it is not told in a traditional novel form, but rather each chapter is the length of a short story, about 30 to 40 pages, and each chapter tells a contained story while continuing the journey, and you see what it's building towards at the end, but it reads more like a bunch of serialized short stories. Was that intentional on your part, and how did that change from the way you've written your other novels?
Right. Well, the other ones were novels. I mean, beginning to end, and I conceive this as more like a season of a television series.
Yeah.
So that each episode stands alone, but builds on the one before, so that you can, if you watch your favorite show, you can tune in and see an individual episode, but there'll probably be an occasional reference to something that's occurred previous.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do something similar where there's arcs that build over several episodes, secrets that might get introduced here but then revealed later, like what's in that jar he's carrying around for the first few, right?
Yeah.
All right? And other things like that. So yeah, it was completely intentional. First, because a lot of the great old adventure stories I grew up reading were standalones. Second, because I think people are busier these days, right? And they're more used to episodic storytelling. I thought, this could be a lot of fun. I want to do it this way. And then build each one of them toward a season climax that wraps it up. So that each book feels more like a season of a TV series. That way, if you're busy, and we're all super busy anymore, and you've got other duties, you've got a kid to take care of, you've got some sports to get to, you've got a whole lot of extra work to get to, you can, I finished a story. I don't need to remember, all these subplots.
Yes, you may know the main details.
Right.
The main story, not the details.
Right. But I also didn't want to have them so disconnected that there wasn't any connection. I wanted them definitely to feel like it's building towards something.
Otherwise, it would have just been a short story collection in the universe, and it works well as a serialized novel because it takes the best of both worlds, I think.
Well, that was my hope. So thank you.
Are the rest of the books serialized in this way as well? Books 2 and on?
Yes, I mean, two definitely is, and that's coming out in October, so I know that
Yes.
is. And
It has to be.
it has
We're
to
not
be.
changing it
I'm
now.
not changing it, right? And I'm right now, as a matter of fact, right before I showed up here, I was hard at work on 3. I'm revising it, so that one's exactly the same way.
Okay.
And my plans for the rest of them are that way. Some of the stories, I'm kind of toying with maybe number 5 having some that a shorter number that are novellas, but
Ooh.
the way, so it'd be like, I don't know, 6 novellas rather than 14 stories.
Right.
But right now, as the closer you get to them, the more detail I can get, right? Because now I'm plotting out 4 and 5 in greater detail. It's like, I think maybe I'll do it the same way. Whatever's best for the story is the answer.
Right. For those who have read book 1, we don't want to spoil anything for them, but we know you basically know the whole end goal is for him to kind of save his people. Do we see what kind of advancement towards that goal do we see in book 2?
Book 2. Well, by the end of book 1, I guess it's not a spoiler to say he survives, right? With these adventure stories, it's not whether the character survives, except maybe at the end, it's how, right? So yeah, he's made it across the mountains, and now he's in the heartland of his enemies, right? So he's faced legionaries, gladiators, dark mages, and darker gods, but he has come through. He's battered, but he's undefeated, and now he's in the heartland of his enemies, and he has the legionaries after him. He has the darkly sorcerous Revenant Order. He's got the Praetorian Guard, and all he has for his allies are a young playwright, the daughter of a hated political enemy, and the unlikeliest ally of all, which is the general who formerly defeated him. And he's trying to rebuild his shattered spy network, and use that as kind of his underground railroad.
Okay.
Right?
I can see that.
Yeah, and then there's a couple of other problems. Someone is running around murdering prominent Dervins and leaving the sign of the sacred woman warrior core next to the bodies. And so that's drawing unwanted attention to the Villani, but it may be Hanover's daughter, and he's afraid his daughter may have become a mass murderer. Yeah. And to make things even worse, because it's never going to be easy for our heroes, a strange magical malady has affected Hanover, and it may bring him to an early end, so he's struggling with how to solve that problem as well.
And that's all book 2?
That's all book 2.
Oh my, what's book 3 gonna have? Ooh, oh boy. Oh dear. So in the book, you have, it's interesting because you have, like you mentioned, like dark mages, things like that, but it's still, you don't necessarily have strict magic like some hard magic systems have. But what you do have that makes the book fantasy is the creatures. The creatures are almost, I want to say almost every chapter, if not every chapter, had a specific creature to that chapter that was described, that was able to like be different and have importance to the plot. When you were coming up with those creatures, did you have to do a lot of research in the sciences of how different creatures work, or were you more just playing with seeing what you could do?
Well, what I didn't realize was I've been sort of researching the feel of all of this since I was about 16 years old, because I've been fascinated with ancient Rome and Hannibal in particular for a very long time, and the mythology. So I just tried to create things that felt like all these things I've been reading. So you could say I've been researching, but I didn't deliberately go out and research, the creatures. I just absorbed it after decades of reading about this.
Okay. So book 2 comes out in October, and it's coming out in hardcover, and it's ebook as well, right?
That's right.
Are there any plans in the future to go in the audiobook route? I know sometimes Bain does it, and sometimes they just, it's too
No,
much.
there absolutely are plans. It's just running a little bit behind, but yeah, there's going to be audiobooks of the entire series.
That's going to be great. Hopefully you'll be able to have some input and work with the narrator and make sure that...
I definitely at least want some of the names to be pronounced right, because I've heard some dreadful pronunciations of...
And it used to be the case, but back when they were publishing Star Wars books at the beginning, they were just giving them to an audio narrator and didn't tell them what to do with them.
Oh, no.
And so they're pronouncing it like Tatooine or
Han Solo.
Yeah, Han Solo or something. There's already like a different vowel thing where you can change things a little bit, but at some point you're like, come on, did no one research this? So it's good if the author can be involved and can give input and make sure that everything works out well. Because that also happened with Terry Brooks. He wrote those Shannara novels. He calls them Shannara, but they didn't in the audiobook stuff. For a while, they were referring to as Shannara, and so he would say, "Call this a series." What series? Oh, Shannara! And he's like, "It's my series. This is how you pronounce it."
I never knew that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I had to change the way I talked about the series after I heard him. I was like, "Oh, I've been doing it wrong." So book 2 is out in October. Book 3, do we estimate it'll be next year sometime?
Oh yeah, definitely next year. I mean, I hope to turn it over to Tony no later than the end of October is my goal. I mean, we're close. It's not like I'm still figuring out how chapter 1 ends. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I love writing about this character, so I have a hard time stopping. Right.
Hopefully you won't do the thing where you just start getting really long, and instead of a 5-book series, you have to split up the 5th book into like 3, so it becomes 8 or something like that.
Well, I tell you, I'm actually so excited. I'm hoping that I can get a sixth book out of it, because I see a few more adventures I could have. It's like, oh my God, I'd like to do them now rather than come back in like 20 years later and say, oh, by the way, while he was over here, he actually had 10 more adventures. Like, oh well, that would work, I guess, but I'd rather do it now.
And then where can people find you online if they want to follow you for updates and other things?
You know, I need to do a better job updating my website. I'm at howardandrewjones.com, and I think it's been a few months. I've been so busy writing that I haven't done anything. I'm more active on Facebook than anywhere else. I'm at, I think it's just howardandrewjones.1. You know how Facebook addresses are. Look for the Howard Andrew Jones who's talking about sword and sorcery in Hanover, and that'll be me. And then I'm on, what's it called now, X?
I call it Twix.
Twix? I like that. I'm going to use that. Look for me on Twix at Howard Andrew John, because there wasn't enough room for ES, so it's John rather than Jones.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for doing the interview today.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.